Last night, someone dead visited you, and it wasn't your imagination. I once said, not all dreams are from your mind. Some are from souls who are still waiting for you to respond. You were not imagining it. That night, when you saw their face, the face you haven't seen in years, it wasn't your memory playing tricks. It was their soul reaching across the veil, knocking on the doorway between worlds, asking for something only you can give. Listen closely now, because if the dead have begun to visit you, it means heaven is trying to speak and silence can no longer be your answer. Many think dreams are just symbols, flickers of emotion or memory. But when someone you loved, or even someone you barely knew, comes to you in the stillness of night, with eyes full of sorrow or words that echo like thunder, that is not the mind wandering. That is the soul witnessing, and it is not random. Some of you were visited last night, and you woke up shaken because you felt them. You felt their presence long after the dream ended. The room felt heavier, the silence louder. You tried to brush it off. You thought, it was just a dream. But the spirit within you knew better. That encounter was an invitation, a spiritual one, and you ignored it. If someone ever visited you in a dream, comment, I saw them below. You're not crazy. You're being called, but heaven doesn't send invitations without a reason. When the dead visit the living, it is not always a haunting. It is often a holy request. There are 3 kinds of souls who visit in dreams, and I will show you the difference. The first are souls who are at peace, but they come to comfort you. Their visit is gentle. You may feel a light warmth, a tearful smile, or a hug that feels more real than your waking life. These souls are allowed to visit to remind you of what is eternal, to pull your heart back toward heaven when grief is making you forget it exists. The second kind are souls who are not at peace. They appear restless, silent, or urgent. Their eyes might carry sorrow, or they might speak in riddles that leave you disturbed. These are the ones that need prayer, not curiosity. Prayer. Because sometimes, purgatory cries out not with fire, but with the silence of forgotten names. These souls need release, not from punishment, but from abandonment. And they come to you because you remember them when no one else does. The third kind are warnings, not from the soul of a person, but from the spiritual realm about something near you. These dreams are vivid, symbolic, even violent. They are not to be ignored, but do not fear them, interpret them. For God often uses the language of the soul to speak when your mind is too busy to hear. Now listen to me. If you have been visited, do not dismiss it as coincidence. Do not speak to others before you speak to heaven, because the moment you speak lightly of a holy thing, you train your soul to treat the sacred as common. You must ask, why now? Why me? And what must I do next? The answer lies in this. The dead do not knock unless the living holds the key. Some of you are the last person left on earth praying for someone long gone. Their name has faded from everyone else's lips, but not yours. And heaven sees that. That's why they came. I've seen this before. A woman came to me once years ago, weeping. She dreamt of her mother calling her name, standing on the edge of a great field, unable to cross. The dream repeated for weeks. She feared it was demonic. But I told her, no, this is mercy disguised as memory. Her mother's soul was in purgatory, waiting, not for judgment, but for someone to remember, to offer Mass, to pray. The next week, the daughter offered the Holy Mass in her name, prayed the Rosary with intent, and fasted on her behalf. The dream stopped, and peace returned, because heaven had received what it asked for. A soul was released. You must understand, there is no time in the way we know it after death. A single prayer offered now can echo backward to a soul in waiting. That's how powerful love is when it is consecrated. And now I ask you, have you been ignoring that power? If someone has come to you in dreams, especially more than once, do not wait another night. Light a candle, speak their name, offer the Rosary with their face before you. Say the Divine Mercy Chaplet for the repose of their soul. And if you can, have a Mass said for them. Do not say you are too busy. Do not say it was just imagination. Because every moment you delay, a soul may be waiting just beyond the veil, watching you sleep, whispering your name, hoping you'll respond. This is not superstition. This is sacred mystery. And I will tell you something more. Many of the spiritual attacks people suffer, anxiety, sudden grief, confusion, are not from demons, but from unfinished spiritual business. A soul knocking, a promise unkept, a name unspoken, and the soul, unable to rest, lingers. Not to curse, but to be remembered. That memory is not haunting, it is holy responsibility. If God allowed you to see them, then God is trusting you to respond. Let me tell you a secret. Not all gifts come wrapped in light. Some arrive cloaked in mystery. And the visit of a soul in your dreams is not darkness. It is invitation, a divine one that carries eternal consequence. Now ask yourself, who came to me, and what do they need? Close your eyes and go back to the dream. Not just the image, but the atmosphere, the weight of the air, the silence between words, the way they looked at you, not with human emotion, but with eternity in their eyes. That moment was not just a visitation. It was a message disguised in stillness. And if you didn't understand it the first time, then this, right now, is your second chance. Because heaven does not speak once and leave. It knocks until your soul awakens. Do you remember what they were wearing? Were they surrounded by light or by shadow? Did they speak, or were their lips sealed? These are not small details. In the realm of dreams, everything is layered with intention. The robe of the soul carries meaning. The silence of a dead man often speaks louder than the cries of the living. Some of you saw a father, and he said nothing, but stood at the door. He looked at you, and you looked back, but your mouth could not open. That dream was not a glitch in your mind. That was a gate. Your inability to speak means your spirit has been silenced, not by fear, but by delay. You've delayed grieving, you've delayed forgiving, and now the silence in your dream is an echo of the silence in your soul. Others saw a child, a baby, or a teenager whose name you barely whispered in public but screamed inside, and you woke up trembling. Let me tell you this. When a child lost too soon visits you in a dream, it is not to remind you of pain. It is to remind you of promise. There is no such thing as wasted breath when it is offered in love. That child did not vanish. That child was entrusted back to the Father. And when they visit you, they come clothed in glory, but often bearing your sorrow. Don't let guilt stop you from responding. They are not accusing you, they are blessing you. And some of you have seen strangers, faces that feel familiar but you cannot place. These are the most urgent, because they represent spiritual debt. Someone whose soul brushed yours for a moment in this life, maybe only once. But God remembered that moment, and now He's calling you to finish what was started. A prayer never said, a kindness never given, a burden never lifted. Let me tell you what to do when they visit. First, do not fear. Fear is the fog that blocks revelation. The enemy wants you to associate spiritual visitations with terror, so that you dismiss them as nightmares. But fear is not your guide. Faith is. Second, write the dream down immediately. Every symbol, every word, every emotion. Write before your logic tries to erase it. The Spirit speaks in impressions, not bullet points. Do not analyze too quickly. Record it, then pray over it. Third, ask the Holy Spirit for discernment. Not all dreams are divine. Some are distractions. But if you felt peace, holy sorrow, unusual clarity, then the origin was higher than your subconscious. Trust the fruit, not just the form. Fourth, respond spiritually. Don't wait for another dream. Take action. Light a candle. Pray the eternal rest prayer. Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon them. Offer the rosary for their soul. Give to the poor in their name. Fast, and if you can offer Mass, and offer. Nothing on earth releases a soul like the Holy Mass. I have seen this. I have felt it. I have wept as souls passed from torment to peace by one single Mass offered with love. Fifth, and this is where most stop short, listen again. After the prayer, after the offering, still your heart and listen. Because often the soul returns, not to ask again, but to thank you. And this second visitation is filled with light, a warmth, a freedom, an embrace. Some never get this moment because they rush. But if you wait, you'll feel them, not in fear, but in peace. I once said, "The veil between the living and the dead is not made of stone, it is made of silence." When you break that silence with prayer, you open a portal for grace. You are not imagining things. You are being summoned, not to fear the dead, but to free them. And in doing so, your soul will be freed too. Now hear me, child of God. The enemy is terrified of people who respond to the realm of the unseen, because those who understand how heaven speaks in dreams can never be fully controlled by the visible world. You are becoming dangerous to darkness. When you start honoring the sacred nudges, when you kneel instead of dismissing, when you pray instead of posting, when you light a candle instead of lighting another distraction, then heaven knows it can trust you with more. More visions, more weight, more revelation, because now you're listening. So I ask you again, who came to you? And more importantly, have you responded? Because tonight the veil may open again, and when it does, your soul must not be asleep. I must say this clearly now. Not all who dream of the dead are being warned. Some are being called. A call not to join the dead, but to awaken the living. Because when heaven sees a soul who is sensitive enough to receive visitations, it marks that person as an intercessor, not a passive dreamer, but a spiritual responder. You were not chosen to simply feel. You were chosen to act. And what you do next determines whether the soul that visited you rests in peace or lingers in waiting. Let me show you what I've seen. A young man came to my confessional trembling. He told me his grandfather had appeared to him 3 nights in a row, each time standing at the end of the bed, holding a handkerchief, silent, expressionless. "I'm afraid he's haunting me," the boy whispered. I closed my eyes, and in that moment I felt it, not fear, but a burden. His grandfather was not cursing him. He was asking him. So I asked the boy, "Did your grandfather die reconciled to God?" The boy hesitated. He never went to confession again after his wife died. There it was. You see, the handkerchief wasn't a threat. It was a symbol of what was unspoken. A life of grief never confessed, a heart full of sorrow never brought to the altar. And now, heaven was asking this grandson to do what the grandfather never did, bring the pain to prayer. I told him to fast one day, to pray the Divine Mercy Chaplet for the soul of his grandfather, to light a candle for 7 days, to speak aloud what the man never could. He obeyed, and the dream stopped, not in silence, but in peace. On the 8th night, he dreamed of his grandfather again, this time seated under a tree, smiling, silent still but free. But the boy wept, not in fear but in release. This is what happens when we take dreams seriously, not as superstition, but as sacred assignments. Now hear me. If you've been visited, it is because God believes you can carry the weight. And if you say yes, even trembling, even unsure, you become the bridge. You become the voice that calls out the name that no one else remembers. You become the hand that lights the candle no one else will touch. You become the heart that says, "You are not forgotten. I see you, and I will pray." And that prayer, it shakes eternity. You think your prayers are small, that the words don't matter, that it's just repetition. But in the Spirit, each prayer is like a torch passed into the shadows, and the soul wandering in the dark sees the light and follows it home. Do not underestimate your yes. Your small act of obedience may be the only light a lost soul sees. And now let me ask what no one has asked you yet. Have you ever been the one needing someone to pray for you? What if the soul that visited you is a reflection of your own silence? What if you are being reminded not just of someone else's need, but of your own? There are wounds in you that have not been confessed, sorrows you carry like secrets, and dreams come not just to reveal others, but to reveal you. Maybe the soul you saw is calling out from the part of you that's still grieving, still hiding, still afraid to kneel. If so, don't run from the dream. Let it bring you to your knees. Let it become a prayer. Say, "Lord, I don't understand this dream, but I offer it to you. If this soul needs peace, use me. If this memory needs healing, touch me. If this moment needs redemption, redeem me." God does not waste visions, and He certainly does not waste pain. So now I give you a spiritual instruction, simple but sacred. The next time a soul visits you, Say their name aloud. Then say these words. In the name of Jesus Christ, I offer prayer for you. If you seek peace, I release you into the mercy of God. If you need intercession, I will be your voice. And if you come from darkness, you have no place here. Let only souls of God's will enter this dream. Amen. This prayer becomes the boundary and a blessing. It honors the sacred and it rejects the false. Because yes, there are impostors. Not every dream is from heaven. Some are crafted by darkness to mimic light. But the difference is always in the fruit. Holy visitations draw you toward prayer, compassion, and awakening. Demonic dreams lead to fear, obsession, and confusion. Do not follow feelings. Follow the Spirit. When the dream ends, the assignment begins. And here is what I see. God is raising up a generation of watchers in the night. Not just prophets who speak, but dreamers who respond, intercessors who light candles, sons and daughters who say yes when no one else does. Heaven is watching to see who will rise. And I ask you, with urgency and love, will it be you? Because the next soul to visit you may not come as a whisper. They may come with tears, with a hand outstretched, with a silence that breaks your heart. And when they do, what you do in the first 30 seconds of waking may be the most important thing you do all week. Do not reach for your phone. Reach for your rosary. Do not scroll, pray. Do not ask the internet what it means, ask the Holy Spirit. Because if the dead are visiting you, it means the veil has thinned. And when heaven thins the veil, it's because earth has forgotten something sacred. It's time to remember. Do you feel it now? That weight in your chest? It's not fear, it's recognition. Something in your spirit knows I'm not just speaking words. I'm speaking what you've already felt, but never voiced. This message is not coming to you by accident, and neither did the soul that visited you. They were sent. They crossed the veil not because they were lost, but because you were the only one still listening. So many walk through life numb to the invisible. They dismiss the voice in the silence. They silence their own weeping. They forget that God is not confined to churches or daylight. He speaks in whispers, and he moves in dreams. The veil thins at night because the mind finally quiets, the ego steps aside, and the soul becomes a door. When you sleep, you enter the sanctuary where God speaks most clearly, not always in words but in presence. And if that presence includes someone who has passed, then your dream is no longer yours. It becomes a calling. Let me show you something most people don't understand. There is a reason certain souls appear to you in specific seasons. It's not random. The spiritual realm responds to divine timing. Some souls visit you near the anniversary of their death. Some appear on the day they were born. Others come before a breakthrough or right after a fall. Why? Because your destiny and their release are intertwined. You may not realize it, but your obedience in this moment could be the very thing heaven was waiting for to release that soul and to prepare you. I once counseled a man who kept seeing his late brother in dreams, not frightening, but always urgent. The brother would look at him with tearful eyes but never speak. After months of this, he finally confessed the truth. He had led his brother away from the church when they were young. They stopped praying, stopped going to Mass, chose the world instead. And now the living brother had returned to God, but the dead one had not. The dreams weren't hauntings. They were calls for mercy. God allowed that soul to appear because heaven wanted reconciliation. Not just for the brother who died, but for the one who lived with guilt. So I told him what I tell you now. You are not responsible for another's salvation, but you are accountable for your intercession. Your prayer does what their free will never did. It offers what their soul can no longer ask for. And do you know what happened? That man offered a full rosary every day for 30 days. He confessed his guilt. He fasted on Fridays. And on the 31st day, he dreamed again. This time, his brother stood before an altar, clothed in white, smiling, a peace deeper than words. And he spoke, "I'm free." One prayer at a time, the veil lifted. Now you must ask, whose freedom is waiting on your yes? Because some souls cannot be released until the living forgive. Yes, forgiveness, even for the dead. You may have been visited not because a soul needs help, but because you need healing. There are wounds in your past tied to people no longer here, words never spoken, pain never resolved, grief that is hardened into guilt. And in dreams, God reopens those doors, not to torment you, but to set you free. If someone visited you who hurt you deeply, abandoned you, betrayed you, know this: God did not send them to reopen your wound. He allowed it so you could finally close it, but not with silence, with release. Forgiveness does not mean saying what they did was right. It means refusing to carry what they left behind. Say it aloud: I forgive you. I release you. I no longer hold this in my heart. I give it to God. And I ask heaven to cover what I cannot understand. You'll be amazed what happens when forgiveness is whispered in the presence of eternity, because the veil listens. Now let me be clear. Not every dream must lead to action. Some dreams are simply reminders, invitations to remember that love endures, that the souls who shaped you are still present, just unseen. These are not calls to do something, but to become someone more patient, more grateful, more alive. But if the dream is persistent, if the soul returns, if the feeling won't leave, do not delay. God is knocking, and here's what most don't see. When you answer that knock, it doesn't just bless the soul who visited you, it unlocks something in you. Many people stay stuck in life because they've ignored spiritual responsibilities. Their prayers are mechanical, their faith feels empty, and they wonder why heaven feels distant. But the truth is, they stopped responding to what heaven showed them. The moment you say yes to a divine assignment, even if it's as quiet as praying for a soul, you invite heaven to speak again. Because when you're faithful with mystery, God trusts you with revelation. This is why some people see more, hear more, dream more, not because they're special, but because they responded the first time. Will you? Tonight, if the veil opens again, don't just witness it. Walk through it. Kneel. Pray. Listen. Because the next time you see that face in your dream, it may not just be for them. It may be the moment God begins something new in you. There is something sacred about being chosen without applause, about being the one heaven trusts with silence. You weren't given visions to show off. You were given dreams that pull tears from your soul. Because real callings don't flatter you, they stretch you. And when the dead visit, it's not to stir curiosity, it's to summon responsibility. You felt it, didn't you? That moment when the dream ended, but your body still carried the weight of it. You woke up, and it was as if something had shifted in the air. You looked around your room like someone had been watching. You whispered their name without knowing why. And then you tried to forget. But the spirit remembers what the mind tries to bury. Some dreams are not for interpretation, they're for intervention. You don't need to understand every symbol. You don't need to become a prophet overnight. What you need is to respond. Because in the spiritual world, delayed obedience is often the same as disobedience. Let me tell you something very few dare to say. Your assignment may not be on a stage. It may not come with followers, or applause, or titles. It might come in the form of a dream no one else had, of a soul no one else remembers, on a night no one else was listening. And yet, that moment may echo louder in heaven than 1,000 sermons. Because when you say yes in the secret place, when you pray for the forgotten, light a candle for the voiceless, speak the name of someone who can no longer speak for themselves, you become what few ever become, a friend of the veil. Heaven has always had friends of the veil, people who walk the earth with ears tuned to eternity. People who understand that time doesn't cancel love, that the soul doesn't die when the body sleeps, that intercession is not an obligation, it's a sacred inheritance. You are one of them. Let me show you how powerful this truly is. There was a widow in my parish who had lost her husband 30 years earlier. She never remarried, never spoke of him much, but every night she lit a candle in front of an old photograph and whispered the same words. May God keep you until we meet again. One evening, she came to me trembling. She had dreamed of him, not as the young man in her memories, but older, wiser, glowing. He didn't speak. He just reached out, touched her hand, and smiled. And she woke up sobbing, not from grief, but from peace. She asked me what it meant. I said, your love carried him further than you know, and your prayers lit the path. Don't let anyone tell you dreams are useless. Don't let the world numb you into silence. You are not strange for seeing the dead. You are sacred. You are trusted. You are chosen to carry what others ignore. And when that trust is honored, God begins to reveal even more. Some of you have already begun to feel it, a deeper awareness, a sensitivity you didn't ask for. You cry without knowing why. You feel things in rooms that no one else notices. You sense the presence of someone, even when you're alone. That's not madness, that's discernment. Heaven doesn't just use dreams, it uses atmosphere. And when you've been marked as a responder, you start to pick up on things others dismiss. You walk into a place and your spirit tightens. You hear someone's name and you suddenly feel the urge to pray. You dream and wake up weeping without knowing why. That's not random. That's not emotional. That's spiritual maturity. You're being trained in the language of eternity. So don't resist it. Don't drown it in noise. Don't escape it through distraction. Sit with it. Honor it. Let it break you if it must, because brokenness is often the doorway through which grace floods in. Some of the most powerful intercessors are not those who shout loudly, but those who weep quietly. Those who light candles without posting about it. Those who kneel in the dark and whisper names no one remembers. The kingdom runs on people like that, and maybe that's who you've been all along. You just needed someone to say it. So let me say it now as clearly as I can. You are not crazy. You are not imagining things. You are not weak for still remembering. You are not strange for still dreaming. You are sacred. You have been entrusted with the ministry of remembrance, the gift of visitation, the weight of spiritual awareness. Do not run from it. Let it shape you, because the next soul may not come for freedom, but to pass you the torch. Someone is waiting on your prayer. Comment their name below, and let heaven know you're listening. There are moments when the veil thins, not because we asked, but because heaven decided it was time. Time to remind you that the living and the dead are not separated by distance, but by awareness. And when your awareness sharpens, when your soul opens, you start to feel what most people never notice, the pull of eternity tugging at your nights. You wake up breathless. You can't explain why. You just know. Someone was near. And if you're honest, it's not fear that overwhelms you, it's longing. A sacred ache, the kind of ache that doesn't ask for understanding, only response. So you sit up in bed, eyes still adjusting. The dream still clinging to your skin, their face still in your memory, their presence still in the room. And for a moment, just one breath, you know, this isn't just a dream, this is a visitation. But now comes the question heaven always waits for. What will you do with it? You see, every visitation carries a window, a narrow span of time where your response carries eternal weight. If you act within it, something shifts. But if you delay, it closes. Not out of punishment, but out of order. The spiritual realm moves with precision. Timing matters. Sensitivity matters. That's why I always say, when the dead visit, do not wait for a sign. Become the sign. The mass you offer, the prayer you whisper, the tears you allow yourself to cry. These are the signs that heaven watches for. These are the offerings that reach beyond the veil. I once met a woman who told me, "Padre, my husband has been gone for over 20 years, but I still see him in my dreams. And sometimes I wake up with the scent of his cologne in the air." I looked at her and said, "Then he's still loving you the way heaven allows. Because love doesn't die. It transcends, it transforms, it purifies. And when a soul you loved continues to appear, it is often not because they are lost, but because you are the altar where their memory still finds prayer. You are the bridge. You are the keeper of light, and the light you carry reaches farther than you know. But let me speak now to those who are unsure, those who say, "I don't dream, I don't see anyone, but I feel watched. I feel like something's trying to speak." Good, because not all visitations come in dreams. Some come in whispers, flickering candles, sudden waves of emotion, an old song that plays at just the right time, a name that repeats in your head when no one has said it in years. That's still a visitation. Not loud, but holy. Heaven doesn't need volume, it needs vessels. And if you're willing to be one, willing to be the person who listens even when nothing makes sense, then you'll start to carry something most never do. A memory anointed with purpose. I want you to write this on your heart. Memory is not weakness, it is intercession in disguise. When a name comes to mind suddenly, pray. When an old ache rises for no reason, light a candle. When your soul won't rest until you've whispered their name, whisper it. This is how the sacred moves, not in spectacle but in stillness. And now I must say something that only those truly called will understand. There are souls assigned to you, not chosen by accident, assigned by grace. Souls whose final moments left them in confusion. Souls who cried out to God in the dark and never found peace. Souls who heaven has not rejected, but has entrusted to your mercy. You may never know their full story. You may never see their face again. But if they came once, it means you are their final altar. And what you do now is not just about helping them. It's about honoring the God who trusted you to stand in the gap. This is holy work. And I assure you it is not unnoticed, because when you pray for the dead, heaven leans in, angels record, grace flows, and the veil that once separated us begins to shimmer with light. Do not be afraid. You're not stepping into darkness. You're stepping into divine partnership. And I will tell you something few dare to speak aloud. Many of the breakthroughs you've been waiting for are tied to what you do with these visitations. Yes, that burden you've carried, that delay, that prayer unanswered. Sometimes the release you're praying for is locked inside the release of someone else. When you help free a soul from the shadows, heaven often frees something in you, because God moves in circles of obedience. And the moment you obey with tears, the oil starts to flow. You've been feeling it the whole time. That stirring inside your chest, that ache that has no language, that fire that doesn't burn but pulls. And now you understand why. The visitations weren't meant to confuse you. They were meant to commission you. Because this isn't just about the dead visiting the living. It's about heaven choosing you as a portal between two worlds. You are not the forgotten one. You are not the broken one. You are not the one who dreams too much or feels too deeply. You are the called one. And when you said yes, when you whispered that prayer in the dark, when you lit that candle with trembling hands, when you spoke that name, the world stopped remembering. Heaven took notice. Angels leaned in. Chains began to break, and a soul finally found peace because of you. And one voice, your voice, pierces through everything hell tried to build. That's why the enemy wanted you to ignore the dream. That's why he whispered, "It's just your imagination." Because he knew, if you ever discovered how powerful your obedience was, you would never stop interceding again. And now you know. Now you see, not to chase signs, but to carry weight. Not to seek thrill, but to hold torchlight for those who cannot find the way. And I tell you this with every part of my soul. You are walking in the most sacred calling few will ever understand. Because the world will never clap for what you're doing. But heaven already has. And one day when you pass through the veil yourself, you will not walk alone. You will be met by the ones who visited you in dreams. The ones who stood at the edge of your bed, waiting. The ones who hovered in silence, hoping. The ones whose names the world forgot, but you remembered, and they will run to you. They will say, "You lit a candle when I was trapped in shadows. You said my name when no one else would. You helped me go home." And you will weep not from sorrow but from completion, because you'll realize you did something eternal, and it mattered more than you will ever know. So what do you do now? You stay sensitive. You keep your altar lit. You keep your spirit open. And every time a dream comes that carries weight, you don't dismiss it. You discern it. You kneel. You intercede. You whisper, "Speak, Lord, I am listening." And then you do what the world doesn't see, but heaven never forgets. Because this is not over. Souls will continue to come. Not to haunt, but to hope. And they will come to you. Because they know you're listening. You're ready. You're marked. Now go. Turn your bedroom into a sanctuary. Turn your midnight into intercession. Turn your pain into prayer. Turn your dreams into doorways. Because the veil is not something you fear anymore. It's something you walk through with purpose. And the next time a soul visits you in the quiet of night, you won't wake up in confusion. You'll wake up in mission. You'll smile, place your hand over your heart and say, "I saw them, and I know what to do now." Because now you carry something that darkness cannot mimic. Authority, compassion, memory, fire. And with every name you speak aloud, every candle you light, every prayer you offer, you are not just responding to a dream. You are shaking eternity. This is not the end. It's the beginning of who you've been becoming all along. Now rise, intercessor. The veil is open, and they are waiting.